what the heck is brain spotting? It is a brain and body based therapy that works from the bottom up, that takes people from dysregulation to regulation, that begins to heal and move traumas, whether you remember them or not, out of your brain and out of your nervous system, so they are no longer subconsciously blocking you from your fullest expression and your fullest potential.
Hey, I'm Brooke Jean, therapist, recovering perfectionist, and struggling working mom on a mission to normalize normal. If you're an overwhelmed, high-achieving, and secretly anxious mama, struggling to balance it all and on the brink of burnout, you are in the right place. Here is where we talk about hard things like balancing work and family life, mental health, and how to navigate life-altering transitions. Nothing is too taboo here. In my conversations, I'll teach you how to let go of who you think you're supposed to be in order to create the life you've always wanted. Get ready to embrace your messy, shed the shoulds, and find freedom through a life unperfected. This is the Unperfected Pod.
Welcome back to the Unperfected Pod, where we normalize normal and find freedom through a life unperfected. What is up, mama? It's me, Brooke Jean, your host, and I am so grateful you're here. I am feeling really full right now. And I don't mean in the I ate too much kind of way, because you know your girl can get down with some brie cheese and some pizza and all the things. I mean like energy rich, like full of love and joy and wealth and abundance and possibility, feeling really held, really grounded, really rooted, feeling full of aliveness, which is exactly what my intention was for this year. Last week was a really full and busy week. I worked my fanny off Monday through Thursday, and then I had a 3-day brain spotting training that I assisted at. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., virtual on the freaking computer. And I woke up this morning and I was like, wow, that was 7 days in a row. And I'm going into launch week for the mastermind. How in the hell am I going to muster up the energy? So I allowed myself to stay in bed for an extra hour, which is when I normally do my morning ritual. And I made the conscious decision to roll over and snuggle with my husband for a little bit, because we hadn't seen each other in 7 days, basically, because Chloe was also off of school all week and he took the majority of the week. And so I made the conscious choice to skip the morning ritual and to replace it with a morning snuggle with my husband, and then just to let my body rest and recover. And instead, as I was just resting and recovering, and my husband began to get up to go make the coffee and start the day, I still connected to my vision of aliveness. And I brought it into my mind's eye of this feeling of alive and this image that I have in my mind when I'm fully embodying alive. And before you know it, I'm starting to wake up. The cells in my body start jumping, and I start feeling really connected to myself and my body and my husband and our home and our family and my purpose and this community and just all the things that truly light me up. And from there, I got my fanny in the shower. And for mental health benefits, I take a 2-minute cold exposure shower because it completely gets the blood floating to my brain. It clears out the fog. It wakes me up. It cleanses me energetically. And I'm telling you, it is a game changer for mental health and for energetics. You basically release 400 times the dopamine that you would normally be releasing. So I promise you that you just feel good. And that dopamine release, because it's real, lasts for 4 or 5 hours. So what started out as a slow and easy and a little bit groggy of a morning, because I decided to listen to my body, because I decided to go with the flow, because I was flexible and moved some things around, before I knew it, I was ready to frickin' go. And it's go time today, baby. I had an hour long guided breathwork journey this morning. I had to record the welcome video and a guided intention setting visualization for the mastermind. I had clients and I had 3 discovery calls for women that want to join the mastermind. And I have to get Chloe and take her to dance. And now I'm back doing the podcast. And I have this awareness that even though I should be bone ass tired, right? Dead tired, I'm actually like buzzing right now. You guys know that I'm not drinking this year. And so when I say I'm buzzing, it means something different right now. It means I'm turned on, I'm turned up, I'm feeling alive. And when we come from this place, everything becomes easy and we're able to tap into resource that we didn't even know we had. And so I just wanted to share that with you before we jumped into today's topic, which is just this place of gratitude that I'm in today, that I have amazing people in my life and I've become a version of myself that I'm proud of. And I get to work with incredible people ready to do the work. And I'm just grateful for freaking all of it. Honestly, so grateful for all of it. And I want to share that. And I also want to share that this is your last chance to join Unperfected, the mastermind for mama. We start March 6th, which I believe, if you're listening to this right on time, is this Wednesday. We already have several incredible women who are moms, who have businesses, who are ready to grow their business or scale their business or turn their side hustle into their main hustle without the hustle part. But if this has been on your heart or your mind to join a group of women to help you elevate in life, leadership, and business, but in a way that is feminine forward, that invites in more flow and joy and ease, then get the heck in here. Go ahead and reach out to me directly on Instagram. DM me. I'm interested in the mastermind. Instead of going through my website, through my Calendly link to book a call, just reach out to me directly on Instagram and I will make time to see if you're the right fit for this opportunity and to see if it's the right fit for you. I am so freaking excited about this. You guys, I've started lining up the experts that I'm going to bring in. We were talking breath work practitioners. We're talking pleasure experts. We're talking digital marketing experts. I'm starting to gather information in terms of the women that are joining and how many kids they have and what their ages are so we can figure out where to have our retreat that's actually doable for the group. I'm starting to gather information as to what's going on in their lives personally and professionally so I can tailor the plan to meet the needs of these magical souls because I believe there are no coincidences. If it is time for you to be in this container, you're going to sign up, you're going to say yes, and you're going to be in there because the perfect time for you. You are meant to meet the other women who also say yes at the exact right time. And so if this is on your head, if this is on your heart, if your intuition is nudging you to join the Unperfected Mastermind for Mama, get in my belly, DM me right away because I am maxing the group. And we will see what we can do to rearrange things, to connect with you, to get you in before the start date. And I am just like, I think that's part of the reason why I'm buzzing right now is knowing what these women are going to go through and how they're going to heal from the inside out, which is going to yield them new and exciting results in their life and leadership and business. Like knowing what's about to occur and go down with us collectively together is lighting me up in ways I can't even describe. There's something so profound and so magical and alchemical that happens in a group setting. Last week, I released a podcast episode on the power of group work, the power of healing, rising, and becoming in a group setting, what the group can do. It's so much more than you can ever possibly imagine. So if you're yearning for sisterhood, if you're yearning for next level, if you're yearning for more spaciousness, if you're yearning for ditching perfectionism and getting back into your authentic expression of who you are, then get the heck in this program. It's going to be incredible and I cannot wait. And I also cannot wait for the retreat at the end of the experience to just fully integrate all of it. So juicy. So Because I'm coming out of a 3-day brain spotting training, and one of the bonuses that you get when you say yes to the 6-month mastermind is 2 private brain spotting sessions with me. I wanted to jump on today and talk about what the heck brain spotting is. Because brain spotting is a newer modality as it compares to other healing and therapeutic modalities. But even though it's newer, it pulls upon Eastern and Western healing modalities that have existed for eons and eons. What the heck is brain spotting? Brain spotting is hard to describe exactly what it is and exactly what's happening because it's so deep in the brain and body, and we're still uncovering and researching what's happening. And it's also, in some ways, indescribable because it's so different for each person. And there is almost a spiritual component to it that I think there's not a lot of information out there describing in a really succinct way what it is. And that's why. But the best way that I can describe it is a brain and body based therapy that works from the bottom up, that takes people from dysregulation to regulation, that begins to heal and move traumas, whether you remember them or not, out of your brain and out of your nervous system so they are no longer subconsciously blocking you from your fullest expression and your fullest potential. So when we go through traumatic experiences in utero, pre-verbal, and all the way through our lives, when we go through these experiences, they're so overwhelming to the brain that the brain and body freeze, and that experience begins to fragment off, and it doesn't get filed where the regular memories get stored. And in that precious moment in time when we freeze, our brain and body is going into some version of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and it discharges or it releases a high level of adrenaline and cortisol. And that trauma response gets stuck in the nervous system. And so throughout our lives, we are collecting these fragmented memories somatically, but also in the brain that begin to wreak havoc on our systems. Again, some of them are traumas that we are aware of. Many of them are traumas that we are unaware of. And so many of us are walking around being affected in our nervous systems, in our capability to tap into our creativity, in our energetic field. We've got these blocks that are traumas because they're unbeknownst to us. And so brain spotting works to get really deep into the brain to reprogram the mind in a healthy way and to release this energy that's stuck in the body. And how does it access your nervous system and your brain on such a deep level? So let me give you a little bit of psychoeducation on how we receive and process information. So we have billions of receptors. We have 11 billion receptors in our body these are our senses. These are receiving information. 10 out of 11 billion are in our eyes and our retina. Our eyeballs and our retinas are an extension of our brain. There's millions, if not billions, of neurons there. So when we experience traumas, they come through our eyes first. They come through our eyes, sometimes through the other senses, but because there's so many more receptors in our eyes, the information comes through our retina. It travels down to the optic nerve. To the thalamus decides if it's going to need a trauma response or not. If it needs a trauma response, it goes to your amygdala, also called Amy. And then Amy determines the level of threat, and she sends the message of the threat through the vagus nerve to the nervous system, which fires up the nervous system for a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. Okay. And so when that happens and we go through the trauma and we're in a full-blown trauma response, the body pauses and dissociates. So think about when you get into a car accident, how you go unconscious. Or if you have any capital T trauma, you leave your body, you go unconscious, you dissociate. And that's because your brain is protecting you. It knows this is too traumatic. We don't want to be present. We don't want to be with this. Let's go somewhere else while this is happening. And that is a surviving mechanism. The issue with that is once we survive the trauma, we are left with these senses and these fragments of that traumatic experience deep in our midbrain, which is not where healthy memories are kept, and deep within our nervous system. And so, brain spotting, because how we do brain spotting is we access trauma that's stored deep in the brain and different layers of the nervous system through your visual field. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about the setup of brain spotting. So, brain spotting, you're sitting with your therapist or your coach or your consultant. We even have physical therapists that are now starting to use brain spotting. It's not only a therapy that therapists can use because it is so much bigger than that. Okay. So you're going to be sitting with your therapist or your coach, somebody that you already have an established relationship with, somebody that you trust, somebody that is safe. You're sitting across from them. We are attuned to you. Okay. Then you're going to put on bilateral music that's going to go, like, whether you bring your own headphones or we provide you the headphones, you're going to put in your bilateral or your bilateral music. And that's music that alternates from the right ear to the left ear to the right ear to the left ear, which forces the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of your brain to communicate. And when that happens, we begin to release calming hormones. So just by being in the container with your trusted person while listening to the bilateral, you're automatically going to begin to regulate your nervous system. So then we ask, what is the issue that you want to work on? And you bring up the issue. Okay. Then we ask you I ask clients to close their eyes and to imagine themselves with the issue so they can start to bring it forward so it can begin to heal and process. So they bring the issue forward. Say they want to work on their fear of public speaking. So I say, bring up your fear of public speaking. And so they bring it up, they open their eyes. I say, okay, I can see that you're activated. How activated are you? We check for something called SUDS. On a scale of 0 to 10, how activated are you? What are your SUDS? And they might say 6, 7, 8, whatever they are. I say, okay, where do you feel that in your body? Oh man, I feel that in my midsection. I feel nauseous. Say, okay, so let's go ahead and find a brain spot. So then I bust out, let me see if I have one of my, I do. Of course, a brain spotting therapist has a pointer. I call it a wand in her office. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my wand. If not, I can describe it as a pointer. Okay. It's like a teacher pointing to a board. It's a pointer. Okay. And so now that I'm sitting with you, you have the issue, you have the activation, you have the bilateral music. There's so many techniques that we can use in brain spotting. There's many different techniques that we can use, but I'm just giving you a basic setup to give you an idea of what to expect. So then I'm going to have you follow with your eyes my pointer, and I'm going to go across your line of vision. And I'm going to ask you if you feel that activation in your midsection more on the left, in the middle, on the right. And you're going to go, whoa, when I look to the right, I feel it. Where you look affects how you feel. So your eye position, when you look to the right, your eye position is now positioning where you received the trauma. And now all of a sudden, we're accessing through the retina, deep into the midbrain, we're accessing information. And at the same time, we are accessing regulating parts of our nervous system. And so then I might say, okay, so is it more intense if I go up or I go down? And essentially, we find a brain spot. We find an eye position, which is basically what the brain spot is, that when you're looking at that spot, you can access this stored, stuck trauma in your brain and body, and you begin to process it. But you almost feel like you're in a bit of a hypnotic state because we're working with the midbrain. We're not working with the cognitive brain. We're not thinking, we're not talking, we're not problem solving. Okay. Talk therapy is incredible, but when you're talking about your trauma, you're not really getting to where the trauma is. The trauma is deep in the brain and in the body, which is why you need body-based and brain-based therapy to really resolve trauma. And all you do, my loves, is you look at the spot, or your eyes may begin to wander, and you start to process what's been blocking you, what's been holding you back, what's been creating anxiety, what's been creating your fear of public speaking. And there's a lot more that goes on that could go into later, but because of what we call the dual attunement frame, which is the first part of the attunement is my relationship to you and the fact that I'm with you holding the space. I am a witness to your healing. I am a witness to your becoming. And when you layer that on with the neurobiology of what's happening when you're looking at the spot and what we're accessing deep within the brain, that's the second part. That's the dual part of the dual attunement. What is happening here is we are accessing places to get to those traumas so we can release them. And so there's activation spots, but there's also resource spots. There's trauma resolving brain spotting, and there's also expansion brain spotting. Expansion brain spotting is used if you are a high level professional and you have a block getting in your way, like a performance block. We can use expansion brain spotting to get to your performance block. This is how brain spotting was found. First of all, it was founded by Dr. David Grand. I was so excited because in the 3-day training that we just did, he showed up on Sunday morning for an hour to just talk to us about the latest revelations. Revelations. There she is. The latest revelations in neuroscience, in nervous system science, in spirituality. Like he is staying abreast of what is happening when we're really trying to heal trauma in the brain and body. And so he showed up Sunday morning to just talk to us about now brain spotting is a neuro experiential modality. And he educated us on what that means. It means bottom up. It means the nervous system tells us what is happening. And right before it gets to the conscious mind that's going to make meaning of that, we get to intervene with brain spotting and reorganize the neurobiology that was created due to the trauma, right? So you may have experienced a trauma that gave you a belief that you're a disgusting person. And you've thought that belief and you've thought that thought for so long that it's become looped in your biology. It's become a neural pathway. It's become muscle memory. What we're trying to do with brain spotting is get into the layers where we can truly disrupt that, where we can weaken those biological baked in ways of being from the trauma so we can start to create new patterns, new beliefs before it gets to the conscious mind. And so it's a neuro experiential because we're trying to listen to what the body's telling us, get in and heal it. So then the conscious mind can integrate that in a different way, which obviously heals the brain, heals the body, helps you access yourself differently, helps you believe in yourself differently. So it was so freaking cool to hear from him. Like, I was asking the question, like, okay, so when we experience trauma, where do the traumatic memories get stuck in the brain? Guys, we have no idea. We're still studying that. We are just scratching the surface of what's happening in the brain. And he said, I suspect it's everywhere. He says, I suspect it's like energy. I suspect that every cell in our bodies hosts all of the trauma we've endured, but it also hosts all of the love and all of the authenticity of who we are. And if you've been paying attention to what I've been passionate about this year, it's energy and the electromagnetic field and how if we just fine tune our energy, we begin to turn the lights on for all the shit that's already here in the field. Basically, what he's saying is there is absolutely an energetic and frequency and electromagnetic component to this. And I was like, yeah, baby, he gets it. So we're thinking so much bigger than just, I shouldn't say just because it's actually really freaking big and profound, but we're thinking even bigger than how do we heal this trauma individually? It's like, how do we heal, period? How do we collectively heal? And so it was really cool to hear from him about brain spotting and what research is informing, but also it's not just about research, because he talked about the infinite potentiality in the field. And we can never know exactly what our clients need because of the uncertainty principle. How many infinite possibilities there are for each and every one of us and us collectively. How could we ever know exactly what our clients need? So instead of knowing what our clients need, we remain curious. We remain in the uncertainty principle. We do this setup, but then we follow our client's lead because their brains and bodies intuitively know how to heal. And I thought, yes, this is what I'm talking about. So, how Dr. David Grand found brain spotting, he was like a really high up. That's such a corporate way of saying things. And that's not at all how he would see it or describe it. But he was a very well trained EMDR therapist, a very well respected EMDR therapist. And he was actually working with an Olympic ice skater. And every time that she would go to do this triple loop, she would basically like sabotage it and fall. And she could do everything else, but something was happening in this one exact triple loop that she would fall. And so he brought her into the office. And as she was talking about it, he noticed that when she would talk about the triple loop, her eyes would go into a certain position. They would look at a certain direction and they would freeze. And he was like, what is happening here? And so he became curious and he held his finger out and he said, can you look at this? And when you're looking at this, what's happening in your brain and body? And they began to access all of this trauma around her parents' divorce and all of these things that happened in her younger life. And once they started working with that spot, she was able to complete her triple loop. The book that he wrote, which is just called Brain Spotting, tells this story in a lot more detail and in a lot better way that I can replay it for you. But he came across it and he noticed that clients, when they looked a certain way, their eyes would do certain things. And what we now know is that's a reflex. And your reflexes are letting you know what is happening deep in the midbrain and in the nervous system. So when we're looking for a brain spot, we're looking at your eyes and we're looking at your face and we're looking at your reflexes because they're telling us when you've accessed something deep within. And we just sit and we look at it and we do mindful processing. And there's some other steps that we do. But where you look affects how you feel. And through our line of vision, we're able to access deeper parts of the brain and deeper parts of the nervous system to renegotiate trauma, to renegotiate performance blocks. And in doing this, we're also simultaneously training our nervous system how to regulate itself. And so often clients will bring in an issue, we'll find a brain spot, they'll get pretty dysregulated and they go through waves. They'll come down and they'll be like, how did I just go from that, a 9 or 10 on the suds, down to a 2? And they begin to see that their own nervous system can face the scariest stories or the scariest body sensations they've ever had. Because again, we don't need to remember it because often we don't remember our traumas because they fragmented off. This is why people can't tell the full story. This is why you may have a sense that something happened to you, but you don't have a full picture. This is why women don't come forward and talk about all of the abuse because they don't have a clear-cut story. There's a reason for that. We now have the education to understand there's a biological reason for that. But when clients can see, wow, I can sit with this body memory of trauma, I can face this memory head on and I can get dysregulated and I can regulate. I can come down. You have no idea how much hope that gives clients. You have no idea how much power is in a client seeing that they are healable. Nothing is a lost cause. Everything is possible. And I fell into brain spotting by accident as a client after I had Chloe. I had severe postpartum depression. It got really scary. I started having trigger warning, suicidal ideation. I knew it wasn't me. I knew it was the depression. So I reached out to a local EMDR specialist and said, I think I need to get in for deeper work. this has gotten really bad. And she said, Brooke, it's really interesting timing because I don't do EMDR anymore. I only do brain spotting. And I said, what the hell is brain spotting? I'd never heard of it. She explained it to me. She said it's like EMDR's new fancy cousin. She said, but here's the cool thing about the timing is I'm actually doing one of the first ever studies on brain spotting's efficacy with postpartum mood disorders, which is interesting because in brain spotting, we don't call things disorders. We are in alignment with Dr. Gabor Mate's trauma research where things are reactions to attachment wounds, to traumas. To label them a disorder can, not always, but can limit our understanding and our curiosity around what's really going on. And it can tend to some of the manifestations or symptoms that are presenting, but not get to the full root of what created those symptoms, or as Dr. David Grand calls them, manifestations in the first place. So, anyways, I say, sign me up, sister. I'll be part of the research study. She was going to give it to me for half off. I'm in. And I went in, and here I am, deeply depressed, really struggling as a mom of it's my second baby, but I was hit hard. I'm having suicidal thoughts, and I immediately start crying. We find a brain spot, and I immediately lock into I have this core belief about myself that I'm disgusting. And when I tell you, and I freaking processed, man, I was like, I cried so hard. I was snotting. I didn't even know what was happening. I was just like, what is going on? But by the end of one session, you guys, and I am not even kidding you, by the end of that session, I could not emotionally connect to that belief of I am disgusting. It felt irrelevant. And in that process, I took a trip down memory lane of all of the things that had happened to me growing up that created that belief that I was disgusting. But by the end of that trip around memory lane or around the world, I had this epiphany. That was trauma that didn't mean I was disgusting. I wasn't a disgusting person. And so by the end of the session, when I could not connect to that belief that was torturing me for who knows how long, you guys, that belief was probably why I had my eating disorder when I was a teenager, why I drank and drugged too much in college, like why I had the perfectionism to pretend like I was okay. That core belief, because of some things that happened in my childhood, had haunted me outside of my awareness all these years. And in one freaking brain spotting session, it's irrelevant. Are you freaking kidding me? Now, I cannot promise these results for everybody because everybody's different. But I knew then and there, oh my God, this modality is life changing. This is getting to spaces and places I didn't know existed. And I looked up the brain spotting training, and it just so happened that it was coming through in Fort Collins in a couple of months. And brain spotting training is not everywhere, and it's not available all the time. And it's phases. It's phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now there's all these specialty trainings, and they're an investment. And it was lucky. I was lucky that it was coming through in Fort Collins. Anyways, the very next session, I brought in the belief that I was bad. I was rotten. Okay, I may not be disgusting, but I definitely am bad, right? I'm a bad girl. By the end of that session, could not freaking connect to that belief. And like right away, I was still depressed, but I wasn't suicidal. And so with how fast I was seeing results in terms of just my presenting depressed symptoms, but also much deeper than that. I was like, this is insane. So that same year, I got trained in phase 1 of brain spotting. I got trained in phase 2 of brain spotting. I went on to get certified in brain spotting. And now I'm working on phase 3 and phase 4 and group work and digging more into expansion. And so this work is so freaking powerful. And even just attending the training over the weekend as a assistant, I learned so much and got to witness so many powerful transformations. And so this is a part of the mastermind. Okay, so if you want to step up into that next level of your leadership, we need to look at what the real deep subconscious blocks are that are holding you back from seeing and believing how fucking amazing you are. And brain spotting, baby, is going to take care of the things that the conscious mind and our coaching and our time together isn't going to get to. Because I am so passionate about making sure that people get like to the root of who they really are and that they co-create from that place. Brain spotting is going to help us get there. And when you join the mastermind, you get 2 sessions with me. And I'm also creating brain spotting intensives right now. So if you have an issue that you want to get right to it and you want to get some real movement on it, you can reach out to me on Instagram and see if I can set up a brain spotting intensive for you. That's a 3 to 4 hour experience. But there's a lot more to come with this because I like seeing clients actually get the stuff out of their brain and body that's holding them back. And this modality not only saved my life in that moment, it's done so much for me and it's done so much for my clients and our practice. And so, yeah, I'll link in the show notes. If you want to learn more about brain spotting, brainspotting.com is a great place to go. The book Brain Spotting is great. I'm going to keep talking about it periodically on Instagram and on the podcast to educate you guys as I learn more and more things. I'm also going to be bringing some group expansion brain spotting to the mastermind and to some of my company and corporate clients. But this is just the beginning. There's so much potential here. And I feel really proud to be aligning with this field that is wanting to bring healing in this way to the collective. Like I said, it really does bring in Eastern and Western philosophies. So now there's a brain spotting and spirituality course. There's God spots. There's so much here. It's just very open and it's very integrative and it's very progressive. And that tends to be how I am too when I'm wanting to learn about things for myself and my own journey and for my clients. So I hope that gives you a little scoop-de poopty on what the heck brain spotting is. I know I can't do it justice. You have to just say yes and sign up for it and experience it. But so much more to come, and I promise I'll share as I go. So that's the message for you today, my loves. Let me put my pointer away. It's so fun, brain spotting. If you want to do a little exercise right now that's safe to do on your own, bring up an issue that's not super distressing, but just minimally distressing, like maybe an annoyance that your partner does or your teammate does. Bring up that annoying thing, and then for 5 seconds, look to the right while you're thinking about that annoying thing. And then for 5 seconds, look straight ahead while you're thinking about that annoying thing. And then for 5 seconds, look to your left while you're thinking about that annoying thing. And notice how each eye position feels a little bit different. That's just a little teeny tiny taste of what's going on. Where you look affects how you feel. And we are a bottom-up organism where our body is informing our conscious mind of what's going on. And so if you really want to heal trauma, if you really want to reprogram subconscious beliefs, if you really want to release things out of your body, it's got to include a somatic element. And brain spotting does, which is why I think it's so effing cool. Anyways, if you want to sign up for the mastermind, baby, get in there. Let's do this. Let's do this work together. And for the rest of you, I'm sending you so much love today and always. Take care of yourselves and therefore each other. And I'll see you guys same time, same place next week. I love you. Hey, mama, if you made it to the end of this episode, I just want to virtually high five you because you've said yes to the opportunity of taking better care of yourself. And that is so meaningful and so amazing. You have no idea the ripple of goodness that's to come. If you've been enjoying the show, if you've been finding it helpful, if you've laughed a little or learned a new technique, will you do me a favor? Will you make sure that you're following the show, that you've given us a 5-star rating and left a review? That will absolutely help us get this podcast into more heads and hearts of as many mamas as possible. Because when we heal the mother, we heal the world. Also, if there's a specific episode that you've loved, will you make sure to share it with a friend? Just send them the link or share it on social media and make sure you tag me at Brooke Jean Unperfected, because I absolutely love seeing that this is actually giving you the impact that you so desire and deserve. Thank you so much, mamas. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves and therefore each other.